Everyone to the 12th session on Arohan Part 2, which is advocacy with government. Very, very relevant work, and a lot of work. Times we think we'll not be able to do this work because it is government seems not approachable most of the times, but it is possible. And so thank you, Shalini. I'll just introduce her. Shalini has worked at Pallium India as a project officer between 2017 to 2019 and is a lifetime volunteer with us as well. She comes from a corporate background and has worked in MNCs for over 15 years before she shifted to the development sector. In the role of a project officer with Pallium India, she's traveled to around 21 states and 41 cities, advocating about palliative care with governments, private institutes, and NGOs and individuals. She has liaisoned with several government bodies at the center and the state level, and for the development of palliative care. For the last 1 year, she worked as a CEO at a new palliative care center called Dilasa in Goa. And thank you and welcome, Shalini, to Arohan once again. And over to you now. Thanks.
Thank you, Shreya. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everyone. It's been a privilege to be with you all. Arohan has started with a beautiful motive, and all the people who join in, they become a family by the time we end it. So it's such a privilege to be with all of you. Before we begin, I just wanted to check one quick thing, Shreya. We have doctors and nurses and medical professionals also on the...
We have a few healthcare people who are doctors and
okay,
very few, but we do have healthcare professionals this time.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So I want to start with a caveat. I am completely a non-medical professional. I would say completely from a non-medical background. But while being with Pallium India, I think I was able to learn a lot and learn a lot from the medical professional I worked and from Pallium India itself, that I started looking at everything that I was doing in a layman's way and approached it that way. So if I'm not able to manage with some of the medical nuances, please pardon me for that and help me with your participation also. So with that, we begin. I'll share my screen with my presentation. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes.
Great, great. So, of course, all my thanks to Pallium India and palliative care that I learned from Dr. M.R. Rajgopal, and I'm still learning with him. This presentation is completely what I learned with him and in the organization through my work. So, as a project officer, one of my big responsibilities was to deal with the government officials at national level, state level, and lot of international levels also sometimes. But at international level, my interaction was not very too much, but state and national level, definitely we worked at a lot of levels. Now, government advocacy, particularly for palliative care, has to be done on 3 levels. Mainly a center sponsored, where a center would want to actually, Shreya, if it is okay, can you share the presentation? I'm facing some problem here.
Yeah, sure.
I'm so sorry.
Can you just stop sharing?
Yeah, I'll just stop sharing.
Can you see the screen now, Shalini?
Correct. I can view it.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So we do advocacy at 3 levels. How I started is at a center level. There is a Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, where they are sponsoring a palliative care program for entire state, and they control it from that center level. And at that level, we have, of course, a program. We have all the people who are really wanting to make a policy for the entire state. And of course, we have a lot of people who are working for availability of the required medicines for palliative care. At state level, we have governments working through different programs. One is National Health Mission and one is NCD, to talk about some of the institutes which work on palliative care. We will talk about all this in detail. And at international level, of course, we have WHO, a lot of associations like Indian Association of Palliative Care, Children's Palliative Care Associations, which are working together across countries to advocate for palliative care. So all these levels, we fall under government advocacy that I was participating when I was working with them. And of course, any person who would want to work for the advocacy of palliative care or development of palliative care will have to go through these 3 levels of interactions. Can we go to the next slide, Shreya? Yeah, next. So this is what I was talking about, 3 dimensions of advocacy in palliative care. One is education, where we first need to create a complete awareness about what is palliative care. Palliative care is still a very new concept. Globally, it is a concept that is there everywhere, most of the Western countries. But in India, still people know palliative care only related to cancer, or probably to some extent related to pain relief through when they want to give pain relief to anyone. So one thing that we need most important is awareness and education about palliative care, not just among the public, not just among the general people, like layman people like many of us on the call, or our families and friends, but also doctors, nurses who are working in this profession. A lot of them do not know what is palliative care. So that is where we have to work and see that we create complete awareness. Second aspect, second dimension of palliative care in government sector also is opioid accessibility. So we all know palliative care is about physical symptom management also. And that physical symptom management has to be acquired by certain medicines, and those medicines have to be available. Because these medicines have their effects, which are like, they can be misused also. So there are a lot of legal hassles for their availability. And that is what we have to fight when we are advocating with the governments, to have availability of these opioids in all states, in all hospitals, on government places. And of course, the third dimension, which is the policy and implementation. Policy and implementation to actually have everything integrated in our healthcare system. A policy, a national policy of palliative care, which will ensure that each of the states, each of the government sectors know what is palliative care. They know how to implement palliative care. They know what they are supposed to do to have palliative care available for everyone, every patient who's suffering. And of course, the implementation, and that's the major part where I was also involved as a national project officer, and the whole team that is working with Pallium India Now project team, they are doing it. It is the implementations. A lot of times policies are created, passed with a lot of hard work, but their implementation at a state level, at a front end level, where it is actually the services available for the patient, that requires lot of work. So being advocates, being the audience that we have right now on Aarohan, I think you can play a big role in all these 3 dimensions in your own way. Whether you are a medical professional, whether you are a non-medical professional, always you can play your role. So I'll take, Shreya, are we taking questions here, or we take it at the end of the day? Because I just want to understand if everybody's with me for these 3 dimensions, because now we'll go into detail.
If there are any questions, people can put in the chat box.
Okay.
So I'll flag it if there's any question that comes up.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We move to the next slide. Okay, so a quick peek on the services that Pallium India has been handling so far. This will give you an idea about the involvement of Pallium India for palliative care, and of course the different kind of role an advocate can play. Of course, there is a whole tips Trivandrum Institute of Palliative Care, Palliative Sciences, which is in Trivandrum. We have the services there, OPD, inpatient, home care. It's a pain-free hospital and a kind of a hospice also. So that's one hub for providing palliative care. But Pallium India also does advocacy, not just of palliative care, but education, opioid availability, and media publicity, which is primarily talking about challenges, barriers, about palliative care being available for everyone, every patient. We also do capacity building, training, development, or any kind of communication material that we can share with the institutes or NGOs or any government hospitals. The major part that we are going to talk today is government consultation. At what level Pallium India plays a role when we are involved with government. And similarly, each of you will be working at this level if you are interacting with government. One is at National Health Mission. So National Health Mission is an organization by government which is working in every state. Sometimes it is called National Rural Health Mission also in the areas where, in the states where more of villages are there. So that is also called NRHM. The National Health Mission is the body which helps you implement the program called National Program for Palliative Care. That's NPPC. And this is the body that we'll have to interact the most for the implementation of palliative care services in government sector. Then there is, of course, the state palliative care policy. Now, health is a subject that is handled primarily by state. They make their own budget. They make their own facilities and guidelines available that how much they want to spend on the healthcare. And under healthcare, they have different programs. You know, you must have heard big programs like the current situation of COVID that has taken over all other programs. So COVID, then there is for the earlier before COVID, it was malaria, it was COPD, it was lot of heart issues. So there are different programs for ensuring different kind of targets or milestones in health sector. So in a way, palliative care kind of lands up in a very end. Palliative care, as we all understand, it's for people who are where the ailment cannot be treated. You can only manage it. You can only provide quality to whatever life is left. So, you know, when the resources are less, in case of a country like India, so the palliative care, which is more of a supportive care, people think it kind of takes a backseat. They want to focus on more targeted things where the results would be visible, where they can probably tobacco, alcohol, where they can save more lives. So just working for the lives which they cannot save, but just provide a quality. The mindset of the people is not that this is on priority. So that's one of the challenges also that we face through. And the third is, of course, the opioid availability. There have been certain laws that were introduced a few years back in 1985, which made particular law which made a medicine called morphine, opioids. There are a lot of 6 kinds of medicines. That law made the availability of that medicines very difficult because it was getting misused. So it has that euphoric quality. So people were using morphine and injectables of opioids to actually get a high. And because of that, there was a lot of pilferage, a lot of misuse, and government, to curtail that pilferage, they put some draconian laws, which not just impacted the regular people who were on drugs, who were for enjoyment, it severely impacted our patients who were taking those drugs for pain relief. And that is when Pallium India and a lot of other organizations and individuals worked together for a change of that law, which was achieved in 2014. There was a change in law came where 6 opioids were supposed to be available for every patient who needs it for medical use. Of course, it has its own requirements, that proper documentation and certain guidelines that have to be strictly followed. Otherwise, there are licenses procedure that can be cancelled. So these are the 3 things primarily where we work with government. We'll go in more details further. So touching upon what other projects Pallium India does, of course, it provides patient support, rehabilitation, treatment. It also get into providing food to the people who cannot afford food, forget about medicines, providing education to the people who are, to the children who are affected by ailments and medical situations at home. And of course, we have a huge volunteer network to help palliative care grow, not just in Trivandrum, but across India. And of course, there is a research work stream where we continue to do research on pain and prevalence so that we can keep growing and keep innovating stuff in palliative care. So that's a quick look at Pallium India projects. Shreya, if we can move on. Thank you. Again, a quick snapshot of what all Pallium India has been doing. It has been involved in Life Before Death movie series. It has been involved in creation of Morphin Manifesto. It has been involved with Human Rights Watch, the NCD Alliance, and where they are working together again for the availability of pain relief for every patient. And we also have our body Pallium India USA Inc., which helps us in getting whatever support from everybody available at a global level. So that's primarily funding also, and a lot of other support at a global level. We get it from our sister concern, Pallium India USA. Next slide, Shreya. Some of the associations at international level where advocacy is done with governments, as I spoke to you, World Health Organization, we have United Nations, we have International Association of Hospice and Palliative Care. All of you can become a member of these associations. You just have to go and pay a small membership fees and be part of them. World Hospice and Palliative Care Association is again a good one. Then, of course, there are a lot of other NGOs which are working, other than Pallium India, which are working for palliative care in India. It is Jeevdaya Foundation, Binay Tara Foundation, Carers Worldwide, Australian Palliative Link International. So they are organizations working out of US, UK, Australia, at different, across the world. And as advocates, we can collaborate with them individually through our organization and develop palliative care in India. Next slide, Shreya. Okay, so as I mentioned, even in government advocacy, palliative care with government, we have the 3 dimensions: education, sensitization of government officials, doctors, nurses, and hospital staff, and capacity building of the medical professional. Opioid access, you'll have to work with the drug control department and of course doctors also. And for policy and implementation, you'll have to work with state NHMs, state health secretary, chief minister, health minister, and of course for the implementation of NPPC. Next slide, Shreya. So as I mentioned, at central level, we have our SPOC called Dr. Alok Mathur, who's the Deputy Director General of NPPC program, National Program of Palliative Care. He is the primary center person who is looking at approving the budgets for each state. So each state has to, so NPPC is a centrally sponsored program. I'll show you more in details. It's a it is sponsored by center with a certain percentage where it expects that center would give you certain amount of money, but certain amount of money state has to put in it for developing palliative care. It is generally for good states, it's 60-40, the ratio where 60% state has to give and 40% center gives. Sorry, it's the other way around. It's 60% center would give, 40% state would give. And there are some, I would say, the states which are not very well developed, like Northeast or hilly regions, where 90% of contribution is made by center and only 10% these states have to provide from their state budgets. So Dr. Alok Mathur is the main person to contact if you really want to know how palliative care program is running across our nation. There is another department called Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue. We have Mr. Dinesh Paul as a director, narcotics control, with whom we have been dealing about availability of opioid access. So he's the person who understands the requirement of opioids for medical use. But at the same time, he is also bound by a lot of international and national pressure to limit the availability of these opioids. Because again, to curtail the misuse, so that you must have seen, I don't know how many of you are into watching Hindi movies. There was one movie called Udta Punjab that was completely on drugs, availability of drugs and how easily it is available in Punjab. And to share my own experience, Punjab has been the state where it's most difficult to get accessibility of our opioids in different hospitals. We have been working since long to convince them that make the license available. License, it is actually RMIs, institute can get a certificate of registered medical institute. Those RMIs to be readily available so that they can procure morphine. But because of its bad drug abuse environment, Punjab has been holding it so badly. Same thing happened in Haryana also. They are realizing now they are trying to build palliative care, but they have this cultural issue of, also curtailing the misuse of it. And we get pressure from every level. We get pressure from police department, we get pressure from excise, we get pressure from NGOs that why are you making certain ones who are fighting against drug abuse. So a lot of pressure come on these departments, and their hands get tied in making the accessibility of opioids. Then, of course, we have at the center level, we had Medical Council of India, and we have Niti Aayog, which is working with whom we have to work for government advocacy. I don't see your question in the chat box, so I'll continue. Sure, next slide. Okay. So a little bit of what Pallium India played a role at what level. So Pallium India initiated and spearheaded a public international litigation in the Supreme Court of India for improved access to palliative care, which became a major factor for promoting government action. So all the state palliative care policy, the NPPC program, that has come up after putting a lot of efforts by Dr. Rajgopal and colleagues of his stature around India. And that's when we got this NPPC program in 2012. And we also got the state health policy, national policy in 2017. You can go to the next slide. Then, of course, the regulations I already talked about. So this regulation is for improved access to pain relief and work with Government of India. This particular law is called Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Act by Indian Parliament in 2014, which got amended. And again, a lot of work went in that. If you get a chance to see Hippocratic, that's a movie on Dr. Rajgopal's life and work, you will get to know how difficult it was at his level to work for the amendment of this act, and how many people were involved internationally and nationally to ensure that the parliament passes this act and opioids are available.
1 minute.
Sure.
Last week, actually, we had a session with Tripti Tandon on the NDPS story. So we did go through the NDPS, I think went through the NDPS journey.
Okay. Wonderful. Great. Thanks for letting me know, because a major part of this now government advocacy is NDPS also. So if that has already been covered, I think half of my job is done. We'll end up the session quickly. Okay. And of course, there is Medical Council, which has agreed in principle, and the program is already out. It's called EdCom, which included palliative care in MBBS curriculum in 2016. So it's a strange thing. You would not know that till 2016, our MBBS curriculum for every doctor did not have any mention of palliative care. They did not have any mention of any aspect of palliative care also. So the doctors and nurses were never taught how to talk to patients. They were taught everything about medical, what to give, how to treat them with medicines, what conditions to be dealt in what way. But they were never taught how to treat them as a person and not just a container of disease, as Dr. Rajgopal says, that our patients are not just container of disease, but they are a person in whole. So that is, after a lot of work, it happened in 2016. EdCom happened, and now we are at a level of implementing those EdCom modules. We are ensuring that we have enough teachers trained who can talk to the medical students. And EdCom includes etiquettes, communication, attitude, etiquettes, and communication in palliative care. So those things are also being taught now to doctors. And of course, Medical Council of India accepted palliative medicine as a specialty. So like we have cardiology, anesthesiology, radiology as specialties. Palliative care became a specialty again in 2012. And now there are a lot of MDs in palliative care that we have across India. We can go to the next slide, Shreya. Okay, so we go a little in detail about the state level advocacy. Some of my experiences with state level governments have been, my initial experiences have been with Tripura and Himachal. And I would love to share the experience, how it began. So I meet this person in I will not take names, but we meet this person in a government organization and say, and I'm being a non-doctor and he's a doctor. And I tell him that, the National Program for Palliative Care has to be implemented across districts. We have this program, you have to implement it, you have to ask for budget. And then he comes back on me and he's like, do you know how many programs we have? We have around 18 programs with us to implement. Do you think how much we can give to every program? And palliative care, this is for dying people. We don't need to focus in there so much. And because I am not a doctor, have you read this? Have you read that? Do you know this thing? Do you know that medical requirement? And I am down to tears. I don't know how to answer him. I don't know how to take it further. But somewhere down the line, I felt probably if I take this, if we keep talking, I'm sure things would happen soon. And that is what happened after talking to him. We got a chance to talk to the principal secretary of that state. And just to tell you something, even in government sector, not everybody is always very indifferent. There are people with good hearts also. And that's what I feel, that you have to keep looking for people with open, big hearts who are ready to really work for society and support you. So that is when we found this principal secretary who was keen on this. And later on, I got to know his father himself suffered from cancer. So he knew the pain of providing quality of life. And that is when he ensured that the entire state undergoes the training. Every district has a palliative care program implemented. And we through Pallium India's education and Rapper Billing, we achieved a lot in that state. And right now it is one of the states where palliative care NPPC program is implemented across districts. And we are in regular touch. They continuously talk about availability of opioids. And where we started, you feel that you have achieved a lot comparison to that. And of course, a lot of work is required. So this is a very personal experience I share, that you might receive setbacks in the beginning, but you will have to keep trying. You have to keep looking for people who will help you, and you'll have to keep going for it. So as advocates, that's what we have to do. So what all we'll have to do is, of course, educating the medical professional on the NPPC program and encouraging national health missions to implement it. encouraging, supporting the state governments to create a state policy on palliative care. Lot of state governments, there is so much to do for every government official. So what they do is they want you to help them in creating a policy. We already have policy in Karnataka, in Kerala, and in Maharashtra. We can pick those policies, work it out with the state professionals, and customize it for that state as per their state guidelines, and create a draft and give it to them. This is one of the very basic stuff that any advocate can do with state governments, to have them give them a draft of the state policy. Now, how much time it is going to take to get it approved and get it to redrafted, I think we'll not go into that. But definitely the basic work that being an advocate you can do is help them create a draft of the state policy on palliative care. Then, of course, we can conduct a lot of workshops on NDPS amendment for opioid availability. Now, again, there is lot of barriers inside the mind of the medical professional also. They don't want to take the additional burden of managing these opioids through the documentation and all that. They don't want to take the responsibility, and because of that, or sometimes because they feel that this can be misused, they are against accessibility of opioids. So we have to change their mindsets also, that for the sake of patients, they should be ready to take on more responsibility, more accountability, and work probably with NGOs, probably with volunteers to help them with opioid access for their hospitals. Of course, we can create awareness by conducting sensitization sessions with government officials, probably who are not directly involved with palliative care, but they are involved in ensuring that the officials, the main officials, the decision makers know. That can include the peon of that office also. And we have to deal with different kind of medical institutes. It can be medical colleges, hospitals, it can be primary health centers, it can be district hospitals. So at different level, we have to deal with the decision makers. And of course, providing training to palliative care team in any government hospitals. That's what Pallium India has been doing also. Go to the next slide, Shreya. Next. Okay, so this is a testimonial. We are going to get in detail of National Program for Palliative Care. Mr. Keshav Desiraju, he's an ex-Principal Health Secretary of India, who played a big role in creation of National Program for Palliative Care. And of course, who testifies for Pallium India also, the kind of focus Pallium India has on the work. He's a big supporter of Pallium India. And I think he's one of our trustees also now. Is that correct, Shreya?
Yes, he's a trustee.
Yeah, right, great. So, the testimonials of people like him really ensures that we are on the right track and we are doing the right work. So what is NPPC now? We move on to the next. National Health Mission is the primary body to implement all state 18 health programs sponsored by Center. So as I mentioned earlier, Center has sponsored 18 health programs, which includes one of the program is the NPPC program. There are certain guidelines, budgets, and program implementation plan and recording of proceedings. These are few government acronyms that you'll have to learn. Now, National Program for Palliative Care has a model, has a guideline model that how it should be implemented in districts. Shreya, I'm not too sure if you have that document handy with you, where it talks about the guidelines and do you have it?
It's available on the website. I can share the resource link.
Okay, I just wanted to refer to it. I'll quickly share my screen for a minute.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the model PIP under National Program for Palliative Care. PIP is plan and proposal for, I think, 1 second. I always program implementation plans. I always mix up opening up the PIP full form. So this is the ideal PIP wherein it gives every district certain goals and objectives to implement the National Program for Palliative Care. The NHM has mandate for the activities for district level and below, and hence PIP should be seeking financial assistance for district palliative care units and activities, as well as state palliative care cell for implementing the program. So NPPC is a state central sponsored program. Every NHM which is there in every state has to ask for certain money from the center under this program. There are 2 levels that it can ask money. One is for the district palliative care unit. Second is for the state palliative care cell. Now, the state palliative care cell is a small body generally in the capital city, which coordinates all the district palliative care units. It is an ideal time when we'll have palliative care in every district hospital, and we will have a state palliative care cell in the capital city. That's the ideal time to look at, but that's what we are working for right now. So they expect, I will not go through everything. I'm sure this document will be shared with all of you. I'll quickly go through a quick personal requirement and the budget. So if you see every district hospital, there has to be 1 trained palliative care physician and 6 specialist nurses, 4 at district level and 6 at medical college level, with at least 6 weeks training within the approved training centers. And of course, at community health center level or primary health center level, they can utilize these personals under the other programs like NPCBCS. It talks about cardiovascular diseases and other form of diseases. These are certain programs which are again under National Health Mission only. Those doctors and nurses have to be trained for 6 weeks, and they should be, I'll just quickly, okay. They should be paid a certain salary. So here it clearly tells you the budget for district hospital. 1 physician, the target is 60,000 per month for 12 months. 4 nurses, 30,000 per month for 12 months. 1 multitask worker. Multitask worker is generally the social worker who knows the geography of the area where that district hospital is, and of course is to be paid a certain amount. Now in total, there is also money for training at district hospital level, and there is money for infrastructure, which is around rupees 15 lakh each year, and certain money for stationary communication travel. So if you see, there is a total expenditure option available for every district is 48.4 lakhs. So just imagine if each district of our 29 states and 7 union territories get 48.4 lakhs, they would, I hope, and that gets implemented, they would be at the ideal level of providing palliative care as per our National Program for Palliative Care. And of course, there is a state palliative care cell where we'll have somebody to coordinate, some data entry operator to maintain data. And there the total expenditure that the budget option gives is 9.5 to 10 lakh. So as I mentioned, state share would be 60-40, and in Northeast it would be 90-10. So 60 would be given by center, 40%, suppose it's a 100 rupees total amount given for NPPC program, then 60 rupees will be given by the center to that state, and 40 they have to take it out from their state budget. But in Northeast states, it's 90-10 because we want to develop more healthcare in our Northeast states. So center is more supportive, and that's why they give 90% of sponsorship. And these PIPs are submitted under the mission flexible of NHM. So again, When you will go into the detail of National Health Mission, how they create a budget, health budget, what all falls under their categories. Those plans, you will see that NPPC falls under the Mission Flexi Pool, that there is a pool of money under which certain programs have to be supported, and NPPC is one of the programs. It's a little complicated, but once you will start working on it, once you will start helping states to create PIPs, once you'll start helping them, guide them what all is needed for a district hospital. So these are the things where you can primarily helping them with the human resource, helping them with training, helping them with any kind of infrastructure. They want to know what all is needed in a palliative care center. You can guide them as an advocate. I will stop sharing, Shreya, if you can start sharing the slides.
Shani, can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see it. Thanks. So I just showed you the guidelines, the PIP guidelines. Then there is, of course, budget and program implementation plans. Recording of proceedings is, so when a state sends a requirement to center, that is called a PIP. When an approved requirement comes back to the state, that is called record of proceedings. So that document which comes back to the state with the approved budget, that okay, you asked for 100 rupees, 5 rupees for palliative care, 10 rupees for malaria, 15 rupees for cardiovascular program, but we are actually giving 2 rupees for palliative care, 5 rupees for cardiovascular program, and this way that they finalize in record of proceedings. And of course, under the NHM, palliative care can be collaborated with different programs. There is one program called Program for Health for Elderly. So we call it geriatric program. I always mispronounce it. Under that also, palliative care sponsorship can be done. We have National Mental Health Program. A lot of states take the budget under that program also. And of course, the NPs, a National Program for Prevention and Control of Cancer, Diabetes, Cardiovascular Diseases and Stroke, NPCDCS. So I just showed you the PIP in which they were saying under this program, you can ask for palliative care health money. Suppose they do not want to give under NPPC, but you can ask for money under these programs. You go to the next slide. Sure. So more collaborative programs. In a lot of states, palliative care falls under NCD program, National Non-Communicable Diseases Programs. It does not fall separately as NPPC, but under the Non-Communicable Diseases Programs, they take the budget and they want to implement palliative care. With Ayushman Bharat, where we are having wellness centers at primary health centers level. In Delhi, we have Mohalla clinics, kind of a concept. So all these are programs, collaborative programs, where palliative care is made available to the patients. Now, what is our role? First of all, I think we first have to become aware about what all things government has, which can be utilized for the development of palliative care. So all thanks to that state health professional, that official who, in my very early days of palliative care, questioned me, but do you know how many programs we have? Do you know how much budget we divide to each program? I ensured that I go back and I understand how many programs are there and under which program we can encourage them to really start palliative care. So this is an awareness that first we have to get as advocates in ourselves and then share with them, because they would not know from where to get the money. Whereas money is right lying in front of them, they can just go ask for it and start working for palliative care. So that's about awareness. Of course, then we come to capacity building. We have, again, doctors and nurses who are working with government sectors, but they are not trained in palliative care. They do not know anything about palliative care. Pallium India itself has worked closely with NHM of states like Himachal, Tripura, Mizoram, UP, where they literally ask the government officials to either send those district hospitals doctors and nurses to Trivandrum for training them, or we have conducted foundation trainings at their sites in their cities also. One of the challenges that we faced there was how to pull out the doctor and the nurse from the district hospital for a 10-day training. You know, everywhere resources are so bleak that they cannot afford to. And of course, doctors, they are so much high in demand in government hospitals, they cannot be pulled out for 10 days. So those are the challenges that we have to work out. Sometimes we have to offer them online trainings and then the hands-on training in a nearby hospital if they cannot come on their own. So some of like Himachal doctors, they could travel from Himachal to Trivandrum and be there for 10 days and get trained on palliative care. But Tripura doctors couldn't come. So they ensured that they conduct a 10-day program in Tripura and Agartala and train their entire team of palliative care. And of course, we have to provide them support for opioid availability, sometimes go meet the health minister, go meet the drug controller. So very funny thing happened in one of the states is earlier opioids were being controlled. When that 1985 law came, it was opioids availability was being controlled by the excise department. So in that state, when we went to meet the excise department official and we said that, you know, you really don't have to do it with the new amendment. This work is entirely to the drug controller. I think the NDPS session must have covered that for opioid availability, we just need to have the drug controller's approval and that certificate of registered medical institute, and we can procure opioids. So we went to this excise department and we told them, sir, this is no more your job. Why are you taking it up? And surprisingly said, really? It is no more our job? Then why are we doing it? We have so much other things to do. Why are we doing this? Why can't we hand this over to the drug controller? I said, that's precisely what we are trying to tell you. And then we go and meet the drug controller and say, sir, this is your responsibility. Please see the amendment. You have to give approvals. You are the sole owner of signing that certificate. And then comes another barrier. He's scared. Is he really the whole sole owner? Let me go and ask the principal secretary first. Let me go and ask the health minister first. So then you have to empower them also. You have to go and support them. Okay, sir, I will accompany you to the principal secretary. When are you going to fix the meeting with him? Okay, I'll go and speak to the health minister with you. So all those things, you know, this is what as palliative care advocates we do. And after we provide that training, after we provide that support, we have to follow up. We see that everything is implemented in district hospital. We go and check whether the district hospitals have implemented whatever they learned and what are the challenges that they are facing. If there are more challenges that we can help them with, we go and try to find solutions to them. I think then we'll go on now to the few of the state case studies, how we work with the NHMs. Shall we move on to the next? Okay, there's one beautiful slide in one of our international workshops we have learned, which is called power mapping. And I think this will be a very, very important slide for each one of you to see. Power mapping is again reaching out to the right people in power, whether it's government and media, and ensure that you get the right kind of support to get the right results. So at national and state level, the government officials that you will be dealing will be health minister, principal health secretary, national health missions mission director or deputy mission director. It depends, you know, who is handling what and how many responsibilities each of the person is having. Then you have a state nodal officer, national health mission state nodal officer. He can be a state nodal officer for non-communicable disease, or he can be a state nodal officer directly for National Program for Palliative Care Health, or he can be a state nodal officer for NPC DCS program. So any of these state nodal officer might be handling the NPPC program. So you have to connect with them and see who is going to help you implement that program. Then there is an official called Director of Medical Education. Not every state will have one DME. It can be that one official is handling more roles. Probably the Principal Health Secretary is the DME also, or the Director of Health Services also the DME. You have to see who is the main person. So the other body, Director of Health Services, is DHS. In every state, this DHS body is the body responsible for implementation of health services across state. So DHS, NHM, and of course our the medical education department, they all work together to ensure the health of the state. So these are the people that you would be required to work at a state government level. For opioid availability, you will have to work with state drug controller, telling them, sir, it's your responsibility. Please take the accountability. Please start issuing RMIs, the registered medical institute certificates, so that opioids can be available everywhere. You might have to deal with excise commissioner, the way we dealt in one of the states and told them, sir, this is no more your job. Please hand over your job to the drug controller. And you'll have to deal with hospital director, medical superintendent, and pharmacists to educate them that this is how you can procure. This is how you can procure opioids for your center. You will have to maintain a certain documentation. You will have to maintain certain lock etiquettes for keeping those opioids, so that the misuse does not happen. So you will have to deal with all of these people for opioid availability, and probably local media. So when you are having a workshop for any of these officials, have local media involved, have them create that pressure on the government, on the state government, to ensure that palliative care is available, opioid is available, and all that we are trying to achieve for the suffering patient can be achieved. You know how much pressure media can create on the government. So whether it's through newspaper, televisions, or through clubs like Rotary Club, Lion Club, or clubs, but we generally do not go for associating ourselves too much with religious this thing. But as long as they are helping, I think that's the best thing to go about. So there's a very powerful slide of power mapping to help you understand whom to contact, when, to ensure that they will be able to help. And in all these people, small heart people, big hearts. Sometimes you'll find the DME very helpful. Sometimes you'll find the Principal Health Secretary very well helpful. Sometimes the state drug controller. Sorry?
Shalini, sorry, there's been some disturbance in the last few lines. Can you just start with people with big hearts again, so we can continue after that? We couldn't hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Probably. Can you hear me now clearly?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Great. So what I was talking about is, in all these officials that you will be meeting, you will have to find who has the big heart. It can be the state drug controller. If not the state drug controller, then find the principal secretary who will create the pressure on the state drug controller. Or you find the director of health services who has a big heart, and he will put pressure or advocate your cause to principal health secretary, health minister. Or if nothing is working, go and catch hold of somebody in media and local media who can create that kind of pressure on the government and get to make them work for palliative care. So that's why this small fishing of people with big hearts in the government sector that you'll have to do. We go to the next slide. Shreya, we can go to the next slide.
We've changed the slide. Is this okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I know the updates. So these are some of the updates around the capacity building programs under NPPC that we did, Pallium India particularly did. we have a 10-day program, which is a palliative care foundation training, and we reached out to different states. So you can see in Agartala, Tripura, we worked with the Regional Cancer Center and NHM. We conducted trainings for their pharmacists, doctors, nurses, and multi-social workers in 2015. Then again, there was a revision of trainings of 5 days in August 2017. In 2018, we worked in Assam. There was already Tata Group was already working directly with NHM for the implementation of the NPPC program, but we worked with one small hospital, Char Cancer Hospital, which is where beautiful work is being done in a city called Silchar. And through them, we were able to work with Assam Rifles. So in Northeast, Assam Rifles is our defense body created particularly to handle all the Naxalite activities. And Assam Rifles wanted to create a good image for themselves and also wanted to reach out to people's heart. And that's when they thought palliative care is one of the very, very good ways to offer them the kind heart that they wanted to help them with. So Char Cancer Hospital really helped us to get through Assam Rifles, and we conducted a 10-day program for Assam Rifles doctors, nurses who are working in remote areas and helping the soldiers, the civilians, and a lot of Naxalite people also. So then we in February 2019, we had a 10-day program for Mizoram. People from eight districts, doctors and nurses from 8 districts had come with special permissions. They stayed at one place and the entire training was being done. We had another training with the Dilasa Hospice. This is a new palliative care center which came up in Goa in May 2019. I was the CEO there for 1 year. I completed my contract last year. So for 1 year, we trained twice the government officials, and we were working closely with NHM to send their doctors and nurses. In Haryana also, we worked with NHM and have a 10-day program. Then in Meghalaya, Nigrinz is the biggest hospital, very well known. They have their own palliative care unit, and they joined hands with NHM and Pallium India to provide the training. So see, what we are trying to show here is wherever possible, you work with National Health Mission directly. Where it is not possible, you find local experts to work with them directly. Like in Mizoram, we found Synod Hospital, which was already a collaborating partner with Pallium India. Through them, we approached the NHM and we brought all the district hospital staff together for the training. In Goa, Dilasa is actually managed by Indian Medical Association doctors of Ponda branch. So they had that influence on the health secretary and the health minister, and they were able to influence them to send the doctors and nurses for training to their hospice. So wherever you find whosoever can help you, whether it's the NGO, it's an individual, or you directly approach them, you can go ahead and talk to them and ensure that they are at least trained, they are at least aware, and they're ready to work with you for development of palliative care. In Himachal and Uttar Pradesh, the doctors and nurses had come to TIPS for training. They spent around 10 days and got to know palliative care through Pallium India ways. In Maharashtra, I don't know how many of you have heard, there's a hospital started during the times of Mahatma Gandhi, Kasturba Gandhi Hospital, which is now called Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Medical Studies. It's a very famous hospital, still works on Gandhian principles. So we conducted a training there. It was not under NPPC program, but MGIMS University is a university in its own self, and they are right now developing a palliative care hospital where they really intend to have a good number of palliative care patients and home care facilities available. So this is a quick look where you all can play a role at your level in your states reaching out to people who can help you. We can go to the next slide, Shreya. Some of the things that we also did with NHM in our recent COVID-19 situation. You know how COVID-19 impacted, and medical professionals were at the forefront dealing with it, and so was Pallium India. Pallium India's team worked day and night to ensure that they are providing support for so much of chaos that was there in the initial times of COVID-19, and tell them how to handle COVID-19 patients, which involved a lot of palliative care in it. So they conducted trainings for Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand, Manipur, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Jammu and Kashmir, and Ladakh. They were all online trainings, and we reached out again on phones and connected through online only, and spoke to NHM, spoke to these senior government officials, and get them on for the sessions. So I think even sitting at home, we can do a lot of advocacy, we can do a lot of work with the governments just by being after their lives that they have to do something. Okay, the next slide. Okay, so here are quick look at certain case studies where I got a chance to work with. So Himachal, we worked with NHM directly, and we got a beautiful support from the NHM, the principal health secretary at that time, who's not working for that department anymore, but he has infected his good-heartedness to the NHM director, the state nodal officer. Now he's leading it, and he's taking it up that every district has palliative care. In Haryana, I think we worked almost for 2 years. We gave them whatever they wanted in terms of information. We met them. Dr. Rajgopal himself went and met the state nodal officer, and kept trying. And after 2 years, ultimately, we got a chance to conduct training for the doctors and nurses of that state. Madhya Pradesh was another difficult one, I would say. We had a project, Parliament had a project. We tried to reach out to NHM through that, but probably being a big state and having lot of other health programs where they needed to concentrate, palliative care was not coming up to be on priority for them. But they still have a very good palliative care in one of the districts done by a doctor who's taking a support from an NGO. So we worked with them, we reached out to them, and we are still working. I think MP, we are still working to ensure that all district hospitals have palliative care. So these are, then you further down, if you see Assam, we worked for palliative care through Tata Trust. It has its huge presence. Uttar Pradesh also, Tata Trust has its huge presence. In Goa, I just shared, we work through Indian Medical Association, and there is a big hospital, Goa Medical College, which is right now developing palliative care unit in it. In Meghalaya, we are working through NIGRIMS, Mizoram Synod Hospital. There is a hospice in Uttarakhand called Ganga Prem Hospice, very famous hospice. We are partnering with them to work with the NHM at a government level. In Gujarat, we have individuals like Dr. Geeta Joshi, who's another pioneer in palliative care. She works very closely with NHM to whatever kind of trainings, and for a state level drug policy, state policy, she's been doing a lot of work. In Nagaland also, we have some very enthusiastic individuals like Dr. Atiko and Dr. Tete, who initiated and who so much wanted palliative care to develop, and a lot of work has happened to develop that in that state. And in Rajasthan, we have another doctor, Dr. Anjum Jod, who's the pioneer there. She's working with NHM to ensure all the district hospitals have trained teams. And in Tamil Nadu, there are a lot of NGOs and institutes. There is a association of institutes where they are working for palliative care, and they're working with NHM. I'll take a pause. I see a lot of chat messages that I need to address.
Yes. So we have,
Nice.
so I'm going to just begin with Dr. Ajin's question is what is the simple definition of palliative care policy? A simple definition.
A simple definition, sir, it will be guidelines to provide palliative care services for every patient in every corner of India through the healthcare setup or the infrastructure that we have. I think in my personal view, that's one line of policy. A policy we make at a national level so that every person is able to follow those guidelines, follow those rules, and know how to go about it. So that's what my take is, a single liner. Sir, I hope I've answered your question, Dr. Ajay.
Madam, actually, I want to know the simple definition of palliative care advocacy, not policy. Simple definition of palliative care advocacy.
Okay, okay. So, sir, advocacy, as we all know, advocacy means to promote anything, to enhance anything. So, palliative care advocacy is we want to promote, we want to develop palliative care. And that's what palliative care advocacy means, to promote, to develop, to create awareness, to do anything possible so that palliative care is available to everyone who needs it. Does that answer your question? Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, thank you. The next question is by Samuel. Samuel, the question is, would adding palliative care services in a private hospital add to the revenue? May not be a great idea, but most of these hospitals have a what's in it for me mindset. Shalini, after you answer it, I'd like to answer that question as well. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You want to take the call? You can go ahead.
Yeah, so I think if we add palliative care services to a private hospital, it is definitely, they look at profits, it is a profitable venture. And I'll make it very simple. Why? Is the investment is low. If they have a small palliative care facility, which could be a 2-bedded or 4-bedded facility, and they provide palliative care to 4 people and give them a quality of life, even towards the end or anyhow, with those 4 people, their friends, their family, everyone's going to come to that same hospital to receive that care. So you see the network, it will be a ripple effect once, these kind of situations, when they receive that kind of service. So I think it's definitely, if private hospitals stop profit, yes, it is. I personally believe it is a profitable model. Just to give us, it's not a big investment. And that's just my suggestion, Sam. Shalini, you have something to add to that?
Yeah. So, Mr. Sam, I think from the experience that I have had so far while talking to different heads of hospitals and private institutes also, so I will have to accept that palliative care is not a profitable idea. It requires very minimum investment of resources, as Shreya just mentioned. But if you compare to our current private hospitals where they want to earn through the treatment, through the tests, because the major earning comes from the tests for the patient, it comes from all the treatments they give. It doesn't come from just making them give a nice room and a counseling session. So we really have to be very innovative in showing them that how they can earn out of palliative care department also. I'm sure if we will find some people with good hearts there also who would be ready to give away a little bit of revenue that they generate from tests and generate from sometimes unnecessary tests and surgeries. And they be innovative in generating a similar revenue, because if revenue is not a loss, I don't think they would mind to send any patient out of the ICU who doesn't require, or any patient not to go undergo a surgery or a test. So I think we have to majorly target in a very innovative way to approach these private hospitals and show them that palliative care can also become a resource center for you. It can earn money for you. How you want to target, which population you want to target, how much revenue you want to give up from tests and ICU, this thing. This is a challenge that we all have to do. So that's I think there's a possibility that we
Shalini, there's disturbance from your end.
I'm sorry, I'm using a word called business, but because lot of private hospitals consider it as a business, which is very sad. But yes, we have to work through it. I think the next question, Mr. Sam, does that answer your question?
Can I just say something about that? Yeah, thanks for that answer, Shreya, and as well as Shalini. One of the things that I came across when I was talking to some of the people who run hospitals, and I was suggesting, I was advocating palliative care thing. The first thing, like I said, they all want to look at the revenue. So I was looking at it, how to present it like the way you just suggested, in a very out of the box kind of a thing. I think the one good thing that can be easily promoted to them is the kind of goodwill that they could get, and which in turn, over the long term, would give them extra business for if they're looking at only the profits and what they can make out of it. The kind of goodwill that they can generate through providing palliative care services is really big, in the sense that, in fact, whenever we talk to any NGOs also, the way we get them on our side is by getting the people to understand, the donors, to understand that it is not just for one person in a family, but it can go on to the whole family and to their extended family as well, and to many other people in the general public as well. So that is something that would make sense to them, if it's not just the money that they're looking at immediately. Do you think that could help?
I definitely think that would help. Yes, the goodwill and all the ripple effect of providing that service will have so many other people come to them through that network. Yes, I think that definitely helps, but a hard idea to sell, and but not impossible. Shalini, can we finish your presentation before I move on to the next two questions? Mr. Murli, your hand is raised. I will come back to you.
So I have two more questions. I think we can take it up because we are almost, I think we're almost at the end.
Yeah. Can I ask my question, Shreya?
Please.
Yeah, I think this is actually the last slide, Shreya.
Okay.
Take for palliative care, I'll take it in the next session.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was really encouraged with the
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Because I'm getting a lot of disturbance in between.
Am I audible?
Yes, Mr. Murli, you're audible. Shalini, there is, your connectivity has some issues.
Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to here. First question is, do you have this kind of a facility in Maharashtra, and particularly in Mumbai, where such trainings have already been done for palliative care? Because that's the first question I want to ask. If you can answer that question quickly, if it's yes or no, and then I would ask you a second question.
Yes, definitely. Maharashtra has a big center in Mumbai. We have Tata Memorial Hospital, where majorly cancer treatments are done. But there are a lot of other NGOs in Mumbai itself which are working for palliative care. And Tata Memorial Hospital is also working with National Health Mission of Maharashtra to develop this NPPC program across the state.
Okay, thank you. That answers the first question. Second question is, although Tata Memorial majorly cover cancer-affected patients, there are many mentally retarded patients who come to our NGO. almost all places of Mumbai, and they don't seem to be having any hospital per se for giving treatment to them. So the NGO which we are connected with here in Mumbai is called as a Seal Ashram. Here there are about 400 plus inmates now, and 400 already have breathed their last in this organization itself, and 400 people have been united back and in short about this ashram. And we find extremely difficult because these mentally retarded people, they do not know what their names, where they come from, and all that. So I find it very difficult to as I'm associated with this NGO. What is the best way to go ahead so that they can get benefit from the kind of organization setup that you suggested? Some 48 lakhs per district. That's a huge sum, right? So can you please help us out on that area?
So, so the NGOs will not be able to really go for the budget that is available in the state. You will actually have to go and partner with them for utilizing and start working for their district hospital. Like you cannot have a separate service of your own, but you can go and offer your help that we will develop palliative care in the district hospitals under your NPPC program.
Okay.
So like Pallium India was doing, they were just going and helping them create palliative care units in district hospital. So same way you can do, because this budget is only for the district hospital.
I get what you say. Thank you.
And I just want to add, in Pune, we have a beautiful CIPLA palliative care center and training center. If you want to go and have a look at that, they take care of non-cancer patients also. And we have other institutes in Mumbai like Romla Palliative Care and a lot of other, if you go on Pallium India website also, you will find large number of institutes working for palliative care in Maharashtra.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. You're welcome. Shreya, I think there is one question which is left unanswered on the chat. I quickly want to touch upon that. The training.
I'm just going to combine both the questions. The training by Sam, the training seems to be predominantly concentrated in North Indian states. And Mr. Syed Ahmed has asked, kindly let us know with which institution is in our state of Tamil Nadu, Pallium India has been associated with.
I'll take the second question first. In Tamil Nadu, sir, we have a list of institutes. There is one in Coimbatore. There is one, there are a lot of them in Chennai. Chennai Lakshmi Pain and Palliative Care is there. We have Soul also in Chennai. In Coimbatore, I'm forgetting there is a name, but I think on Pallium India website, if you'll go, we have a national directory. You can, under Tamil Nadu, you can see the number of palliative care association working in Tamil Nadu. And particularly Pallium India has been associated with Lakshmi Palliative Care in past and the one in Coimbatore. Shreya, do you want to add the latest update there?
Yes, there's also Coimbatore Cancer Foundation is actually, we work, there are quite a few organizations based in Tamil Nadu, but we are not directly working with them. They're doing some good work on their own. And also, like Mr. Syed, you had shared the policy, the government policy that had come out in the state of, by the state government of Tamil Nadu. So yes, that's ongoing. And, but we, other than Coimbatore Cancer Foundation and a few organizations, we haven't really worked with a lot of organizations in Tamil Nadu. So even though some of these states have, so I will be sharing the resources. The directory link is shared has been shared with you earlier, but we'll keep sharing it. Try to look at the organizations close to you. We don't have to work with all organizations. We mainly have to work a lot with state governments and champions, yes, but our main work is for first the state government to accept that there is a need for palliative care in the state. Dr. Ajay, I can see your hand, so I'll get back to you. Just please don't raise it continuously. I'm going to get back to you. 1 minute. So yes, so this is the scene, and I'll just Dr. Ajay, your question, please, if you can unmute.
Sorry, Shreya, I just want to add on something to that Tamil Nadu thing. in the past, Pallium India has been associated with Lakshmi Pain and Palliative Care Center, which is in Chennai. The founder of that center was also a trustee of Pallium India. So we worked very closely to an extent. And through them, we had approached National Health Mission also. So there were certain meetings where NHM of Tamil Nadu approached Pallium India also. And we worked with Lakshmi Palliative Care to provide those trainings. But right now, I think it's the Lakshmi Palliative Care which is predominantly involved. So if you're really looking for one institute through whom you can go to the government connects, I think Lakshmi Palliative Care would be the one. And also, just quickly answering Sam's the thing. Sam, the non-South Indian states, you have very rightly noticed. South Indian states have lot of more palliative care awareness than the North Indian. I think all thanks to Indian Association of Palliative Care and institutes like Pallium India, that northern states have also come to know about palliative care. Initially, it was predominantly available in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Maharashtra, Karnataka. You see, these were the major states where we had palliative care awareness. And Kerala, of course, tops the chart. So our major focus has been north and northeast, where we tried to create awareness about palliative care and join hands and collaborations and trained people.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
In fact, I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Ashok Matthews from Lakshmi Pain Clinic, team in palliative care center. Last week I was in Chennai, and I've been traveling across South India for the last couple of months, trying to meet as many people as possible in the palliative care segment. And like you rightly said, there is already a lot of work that is being done in the southern part of the country. So I try to learn more from them because they have the experience, and then try and replicate that in other parts of the country. Thank you. Yes, you did mention that, and it's great. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thanks. Yeah, we go to Dr. Ajay.
Shalini Madam, you told us about power mapping. You asked us to contact people with a big heart. Actually, very sorry to say that in our medical college Trivandrum, Kerala, even now morphine is not available. Our chief minister is having a good heart, probably with a double heart. What shall we do? What can we do? What can you do in this?
So you rightly said, we still have a lot of barriers. We still have more barriers than people with big hearts. You're rightly, probably 2 hearts, 3 hearts we have to find out and keep working with them. And you can see if Kerala itself is struggling to reach a certain level, how difficult it is going to be in other states. But I think what I feel is persistence and perseverance is the only thing that we can do. We can keep following up, keep charging up our efforts, have more people involved. Like Arohan is a big group of participants. We all can work together, create that pressure through media, create that demand in public that we want palliative care services. So when the demand would come from public, I think that will raise pressure on governments, and they will do things for that.
Okay.
Any other questions, Shreya?
Nothing in the chat box. Does anyone have any questions? We have 4 more minutes before we have to end the session. Okay, just also introducing on today's discussion, we have Rontu Sangma, who works at Pallium India as a project regional program officer. He's based out of Guwahati and takes care of Northeast. We also have Rajendra ji, who works out of Uttarakhand. So they've recently done a lot of good work in their states, including Uttarakhand and a lot of Northeast states. Rontu and Rajendra ji, do you want to talk to the team? Or do you have any inputs to share as well?
Yeah, hi, Rontu here.
Yes,
Nothing from my side. It's always great to be a part of this session and hear out from people and come to know so many things also. And yeah, it's a team working together. So feel good to be a part of this session every week.
Thanks, Ron. Thank you. Any other questions, Rajendra ji?
हेलो।
हाँ, बोलिए।
सबको मेरा नमस्कार। मैं राजेंद्र दत्त उत्तराखंड से पैलियम मीडिया में जुड़कर बहुत बेहतर करने का मौका मिला है और मैं नॉर्थ के कुछ राज्यों में बराबर कंटिन्यूस समन्वय बनाते हुए NHM से और प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूट हॉस्पिटल से लगातार कोऑर्डिनेशन में बना हूँ। हमने पिछले कुछ समय जो है काफी अवेयरनेस सेंसिटाइजेशन प्रोग्राम को किए हैं। तो उत्तराखंड में हमारे गवर्नमेंट के साथ मिलकर के NHM के साथ मिलकर के हम लोगों ने डिस्ट्रिक्ट हॉस्पिटल्स में CHC PHC लेवल में कई CME ऑर्गेनाइज की हैं पिछले साल में और उसके बाद जो है पहली कोविड इको ट्रेनिंग भी यहाँ पर काफी अच्छा उसका परिणाम रहा। सफलतापूर्वक लगभग 300 के लगभग जो है डॉक्टर, नर्सेज एंड सोशल वर्कर वगैरह जो है रजिस्टर्ड हुए हैं हमारे पहली कोविड में। और इसी तरह से आप फाउंडेशन कोर्स इन पैलिएटिव मेडिसिन, फाउंडेशन कोर्स इन पैलिएटिव नर्सिंग एंड FCPM में भी काफी लोग इंटरेस्ट दिखाते हुए आगे बढ़े हैं और अभी हमारे पैलियम मीडिया से कोर्स कर रहे हैं। तो मैं लगातार कोऑर्डिनेशन में बना हूँ हिमाचल, जम्मू कश्मीर, लद्दाख, पंजाब। तो इन सभी क्षेत्रों से प्राइवेट और सरकारी स्वास्थ्य इकाइयों से लगातार लोग बने हैं और हमारे साथ कोर्स कर रहे हैं और इच्छुक हैं नई पैलिएटिव केयर यूनिट के लिए। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद पैलियम इंडिया टीम का मुझे ये मौका देने के लिए और मैं अच्छे से कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि इसमें और ज़्यादा अचीवमेंट हो, लोग ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जुड़े, अवेयर हों और नई पैलिएटिव केयर खुले। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Rajendra ji. If anyone wants translation, I can translate. So at brief, Rajendra ji is based out of Uttarakhand. He's also doing a lot of advocacy work in various states, including Himachal, Ladakh, Jammu Kashmir, and other places as well. He's done some tremendous work with the NHM in Uttarakhand, especially in terms of the Pali-COVID training, where I think 3/4 of the training attendants were from Uttarakhand, attending the Hindi and the English sessions. So thank you, Rajendra ji and Ronto, for your work. In terms of the time is up, Shalini, do you have any closing comments?
Sure. Anything you wanted me to say?
No, sorry. I said any closing comments before we close the session for today?
Yeah, I think from my side, there are 2 sessions that are planned. So today we talked about the NDPC and the government coordinations and all. I think the next session talks about the state policy, how to create a state policy in detail, and the NDPS, opioid accessibility. So that would what we'll be talking next, and probably we'll be showing you the documents in detail, how you can fill them and go through it. And that would be, I think, whenever the next session happens for government advocacy.
It's next
So
week.
that would be it from my side for today.
Yes, it's next week, the session. So anyways, so
Okay.
we'll thank you so much, everyone, for being, thank you, Shalini, for being a part of this again. Advocacy with government is, for palliative care is incomplete without you. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And thank you, audience, for your active participation. See you again next week. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. And yes, see you soon. Bye-bye.